So some UFC past event, John, John Jones and Cyril Gane. What was your thought on that fight?
I didn't actually get to watch the fight. I was busy doing something else, but I certainly paid attention. I saw the outcome. I saw some of the video clips of the outcome. I actually thought that Gane would give John a lot more trouble than he did. This was obviously John's first time up at heavyweight.
Right.
Playing around with the bigger, stronger, more powerful guys is always a challenge, and you have to approach them a little bit differently. But John didn't seem to have any trouble. He matched him, strength for strength, pound for pound, and did a good job of in finishing that fight. We'll see, how he continues to to foray in the heavyweight division, but he's one of the most talented fighters that we have in mixed martial arts for sure.
Yeah, I listened to Cyril because he has a YouTube channel in France. He speaks French. I also speak French. I listened to him after the fight. He was no, a couple months after the fight. He's very disappointed about his fight. He's like he wasn't expecting he's gonna finish so quickly.
Yeah, that's the fight game.
That's the fight game. And then Leon Edward Kamaru Usman, the trilogy.
Yeah, that was the third fight in the trilogy with these guys. I think they were one apiece. I think everybody thought Usman was probably going to come back after losing the last time against Edwards, and Edwards did a great job. And I think it's always, the onus is always on the guy that won the last fight. That guy's going to make some changes. He's going to make some adjustments, and you've got to take a wild ass guess as to what those adjustments and changes are going to be. So it's always, I think, tougher for the guy that won the previous outing to figure out how to approach that guy and get the same outcome the next time they fight.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really scared that anyways, the third fight was I was expecting more of Usman to do more wrestling,
Mm-hmm.
but Leon was trying to set him up all the time with that left kick, head
Yeah.
kick. And I listened to Usman. He did an interview, I think, yesterday, this week. He was talking about Leon, that Leon has a confident boost. He could see that Leon has that champion, confidence. He was
Mm-hmm.
so confident. He's home. Um, so I think this is his time now. This is his time.
Yeah. He's come into his own and absolutely deserves to be where he's sitting right now. That was a dominant performance. He did a great job.
Yeah. And then Pereira and Adesanya. Wow.
Now this one's coming up, isn't it?
So this one, the Pereira Adesanya, they already fought. They already
Okay.
fought, and Adesanya beat him the second time. So as you know, they fought two times in kickboxing, and then Pereira won, and then they fought one time in MMA. Pereira win the belt from Adesanya, and then the UFC 287 that just happened in Miami. Then Adesanya was able to beat him in the second round.
Oh, okay. See, I didn't see that fight. Generally, unless one of the guys from Extreme Couture is fighting, I'm probably not buying a pay-per-view. I'm probably not tuning in. That's just the way it is.
That's true.
I haven't been to a UFC since Dana lashed out at me. I don't know, 11 or 12 years ago. I guess it would be 11 years ago because it's been 12 years since I fought. But when I signed a contract to go to the Spike TV and do some scripted and unscripted television for them, I resigned as a commentator for the UFC, and Dana kind of went off the rails. He soured our relationship. Let's just put it that way. Since that time, but that's really, I'm just doing what's best for me and what's best for my career, and trying to move myself forward and do the best I can. So I don't really tune into the UFCs unless one of the Extreme Couture guys is fighting on those cards.
Okay. Is there any way that you guys do some reconciliation, you and Dana White?
It's really up to Dana. I got no issue with Dana. I never had. I tried to set up a meeting and talk to him about the offer that Spike was presenting me, and it was a very lucrative offer. They had me commentating 4 shows a year, which wasn't very lucrative, frankly. It wasn't enough to sustain, a living, just commentating 4 fights a year. So I needed more from the company in order to stay with the company. I tried to make him aware that Spike was making me a very significant offer. And he found out about that before I got the chance to sit down with him at dinner. Our sport has a tendency to leak like a sieve. It's tough to keep secrets in mixed martial arts. So it is what it is. I've stayed positive and keep moving forward. And just doing the best that I can do for myself and my family, and that's all that really matters to me.
Yeah, and you're doing awesome. You're doing great. What are some of your favorite fighters of all time? What, MMA or boxing?
Well, gosh, I grew up in the golden age of boxing. Ali,
Right.
Hagler, Hearns. Some of the Frazier's one of my favorites of all time. Smoking Joe Frazier and his peekaboo hook and the way he fought. I mean, that in many ways is, I think, the golden era of boxing. And then to also kind of be a part of that golden era of mixed martial arts, that kind of second generation of mixed martial artists that were, trying to be well-rounded, complete fighters and not worried about representing their style, is kind of where I came into mixed martial arts. So it's I feel privileged and honored to have been part of that in mixed martial arts and to have lived through that era in boxing as well and grown up watching those boxers. So I think those guys went out absolutely to win fights, to knock guys out. They weren't trying to pad records. They weren't worried about the W's. They were willing to take risks and get after it. And I think that's the difference between their attitude towards boxing and most of the boxers that I see boxing now. They're more interested in keeping that O instead of taking a risk and putting it on the line and going out there to try and knock somebody out. So,
sure. How about acting? What are some of your favorite actors?
gosh, there's I love the period pieces like Braveheart or Gladiator, those genres that bring those pieces of history to life before your eyes. I love those. Those are certainly my top 5 movies. I'm a big fan of Eastwood, his directing style, his acting style. Outlaw Josie Wales is one of my favorite movies. I also love Gran Torino. I think Gran Torino and how it speaks to the political correctness that certainly we're enduring these days with cancel culture and everything else going on. I really, really like that movie and the message that movie contained. It wasn't about what that man said and the silly things that he communicated. It was about how he acted, what he did. That was important, and I think that we need to remember that. You don't judge people by the way they look or anything else. You judge people by their character and how they act.
Right. Wow. So, I listened to one of your past interviews where you helping fighters. I mean, you were fighting for the past legislation to help MMA fighters. Is there any update on that?
Yeah, I kind of became the spokesperson for the MMA FA, the Mixed Martial Arts Fighters Association. We've been around for about 7 years. We're a pretty small group at this point. We've been trying to get the Muhammad Ali Act, which was federal legislation that was passed in 1996 to protect boxers from promoters. We've been trying to get that definition of boxing changed to combative sports athlete in that federal legislation. Did a lot of door knocking in Congress, spoke to Congress to try and get that to a vote. Obviously, the UFC and their lobbyists have been working very, very hard to keep us from getting that on the floor to be voted in Congress and eventually voted through in Senate. I think they've spent to date about $5 million lobbying against us to keep us from getting that legislation changed. So I think that's the short play. That's the fastest way to see some transparency in our sport and see some of these very restrictive contracts eliminated.